All right, let's talk about something huge that's happening right now, kind of behind the scenes, in Turkey's pharmaceutical world. It's called e-CTD 4.0. Now, I know that sounds super technical, but trust me, this is a project that's about to shake up everything, from the actual medicines you use to where Turkey stands on the global stage. So, let's break down what this big leap is all about. So, to really get why this is such a massive deal, I want you to just think about one number: 30. 30 years. For pretty much an entire generation, the way drug companies have submitted their applications for new medicines has been exactly the same. That whole era, it's about to come to a screeching halt. So yeah, this system that's been around forever is getting a total overhaul, a ground-up rewrite. And, whenever there's a big wave of change like this, it brings up a really big question, right? Where is Turkey going to stand when the dust settles? Will they be playing catch-up, or could this be their moment to actually lead the pack? Okay, so here's how we're going to break this all down. First, we'll get into why this change has to happen now. Then, we'll dig into what e-CTD 4.0 actually is and the four big ideas that make it tick. After that, we'll see who wins from this, check out the pretty wild timeline, and finish up with the one thing that will make or break this whole thing. All right, first up, why the big rush? I mean, if a system's been in place for decades, why tear it all down now? Well, the simple answer is the world isn't waiting. Technology and global regulations, they just don't stand still for anyone. Let me paint you a picture. The tech they're using right now, it's basically from the early 90s. Seriously, it's like trying to stream a 4K movie on a dial-up modem. The rest of the world is moving to these super smart modern systems, and Turkey's regulatory agency, TITCK, basically looked around and said, okay, yeah, we can't get left behind. And they are not mincing words about it either. This is not some nice-to-have upgrade for a few years down the line. As TTIC themselves put it, this transition is an absolute necessity. It's not an option. If Turkey wants to remain a key player, they have to make this move. Okay, so the problem is pretty clear, right? The old system is a dinosaur. So what's the fix? Well, that brings us to the solution, e-CTD 4.0. Let's really dig in and see what this thing is all about. So what in the world is e-CTD? Well, the textbook definition is it's the standard for how pharmaceutical companies have to package up all their data and submit it for approval. And version 4.0, that's the brand new, super smart, next generation version of that standard. And believe me, it's a total game changer. But let's ditch the jargon for a second. The easiest way to think about it, it's like a digital user manual for a medicine, a really, really advanced one. And with version 4.0, the way that manual is built, shared, and updated is being completely reinvented from the ground up. And this is where it gets really cool. What makes this new version so revolutionary? Why is it such a leap? It all boils down to 4 core innovations that completely change the game. And what's so clever is how these 4 things work together. First up, a modular structure. Seriously, think of it like Lego blocks. You can click different pieces together and reuse them. Next, you've got advanced validation. This means the system itself is smart enough to catch errors before a human ever sees it. Then there's document reuse, which is huge. It means you can take a chunk of information from one application and just pop it into another, a massive time saver. And finally, a dynamic lifecycle, which is just a fancy way of saying it's way, way easier to manage and update a medicine's info over its entire lifetime. So you've got all these cool new technical features, but so what? What does that actually mean in the real world? Well, this isn't just a tech upgrade. It's a genuine win-win, with real benefits for both the regulators and the pharmaceutical industry. And you can really see that win-win play out here. For the authority, TITCG, it means faster review times, much better data analysis, and being perfectly in sync with global standards. And for the industry, we're talking a major boost in efficiency, higher quality submissions with fewer errors, and, this is the big one, it makes it so much easier for Turkish companies to get into global markets. Okay, this all sounds amazing in theory, but when is it actually happening? Is this some 10-year plan? Nope. Turkey has laid out a very clear and honestly, a pretty ambitious roadmap to make this a reality. So here's the plan. Things really kick off in 2026. That's when the core software development starts. Just a year later, in 2027, they'll start running pilot programs with a few companies to work out all the kinks. And then, the big push. Between 2028 and 2029, the entire sector is expected to make the leap. It's coming up fast. So we've got the tech, we've got the timeline, but that brings us to maybe the most important question of all. For a project this massive, this complex, what's the one thing that will absolutely determine whether it succeeds or fails? The answer, in one word, is collaboration. This is not the government building something in a vacuum and then just telling everyone here, use this. Not at all. The whole idea is that the regulators and the industry are going to do this together, side by side. And you can hear it directly from Tichik, the head of the Drug Authorization Department. Omer Hakan Shimshiki put it perfectly. He said, "We will carry out all of these processes together with you." That's not just talk, it's a promise that every single step will be a partnership. And how is the industry responding? With the exact same energy. You've got Dr. Sami Turkoglu speaking for the manufacturers, saying right back, "Whatever task falls to us, we are with you in every way." I mean, you just don't see this kind of alignment very often. Both sides are completely in sync, heading for the exact same goal. So when you put all this together, the tech, the timeline, this incredible spirit of collaboration, it leaves you with one last really big question. Is this whole thing just about catching up with the rest of the world? Or is the ambition something much bigger? Could Turkey use this moment to not just follow the rules, but to actually become a regional rule setter, a leader that other countries look to? Well, the answer to that is going to get written over the next few years.